like the first idea was this man and woman and a trans woman, sort of a love triangle that we're kind of very used to seeing. But the fact that one of them was a trans woman and that it was set in a middle class household in Pakistan, and a film that spoke about patriarchy, kind of that dramatic setup of a love triangle allowed me to speak about a lot of things that I knew, now I know retrospectively, were things that were very personal to me. You know, and I didn't start it out as a personal story. It kind of just became emotionally autobiographical, as I think like to call it, in a certain way, because the plot of the film is very different from anything that I've ever experienced in my life.
Right.
But the characters, somehow their inner truths and their inner lives are very similar to either mine or people that I have, you know, grown up around. The reaction has been really one of the nicest things that has, you know, happened in the past 1 year. They've been incredibly supportive, not just in terms of a reaction, but also in the making of the film. I think every person who's, you know, every character in the film that's trans, not just Alina's character, but, you know, there are parts in the film that are in her house, on, you know, with the wedding, etc. They're all actual trans people who are not actors, but who just came for that one day because, you know, they were excited that, you know, there was a story that kind of included their life and their culture in the film. So they all just, you know, like buses and buses of, you know, would just show up, you know, with so many clothing options. It'd be like, what should we wear? And they were so invested in the film. And the idea that, you know, one of them was sort of, you know, the lead of a film, you know, which is something that was not imaginable to them before. So they've really sort of, you know, taken it up as their film, you know, whether it was the sort of controversy back home with the ban, etc. You know, one of the biggest voices that was amplifying sort of the cause of the film, or, you know, the fact that we wanted the film to release was the trans community. Their community is so indigenously rooted that it's hard to compare it in a certain way to the US or to the movements anywhere else in the world, because somehow I think what's not known about them is the fact that they've had, you know, centuries of existence, you know, and it wasn't always an existence of discrimination, actually. Historically speaking, they were actually a big part of our culture in a very revered fashion. You know, in the royal courts, pre-colonization, and there was never an idea that there's, you know, that they're an otherized community. That idea sort of, you know, unfortunately was imported with colonization when the British came on. And so the discrimination is imported, unfortunately, not the idea. Like, I mean, a lot of people think that the trans movement or the LGBT movement has been imported from the West into Pakistan, but it's the other way around, actually, because it was the discrimination that we imported, and now we're stuck in a situation where the community is sort of struggling to regain its past glory without feeling like it's borrowing those ideas from the West, you know, because that's not true. But they're incredibly progressive. They've been able to pass legislature which, you know, which is very, very unique and very progressive. You know, like they can self-identify their own gender in Pakistan, which is not something that you can do in anywhere in the world apart from, like, I think 10 to 12 countries. So, you know, on some level, despite the fact that the overall country is so conservative, the trans community has fortunately is spearheading a very progressive movement in the country.
Amazing.
I don't know if we couldn't react emotionally at the time because it was such a pragmatic matter, and at that point, I think me and the entire team that was there with me, we all sort of looked at it as a very pragmatic matter of, like, we're not going to take this personally. This has happened before to many films. It will keep on happening. We have, fortunately enough, the backing of a film with us that has created a certain amount of buzz based on its laurels, you know, whether it was going to Cannes or whether it was, you know, Malala's association with the film or Riz Ahmed's association with the film. So we knew that we had enough going forward, that the film had a ready audience, despite it being an indie film, that wanted to see it. So we could capitalize and create some kind of a resistance movement. And we just did that. You know, I think we were sort of pragmatically and politically driven to just be like, whatever it takes. We have 6 days because the film was banned like on the 11th or 12th of November. And it was the weekend, and the film was supposed to release on the 18th. So we had 5 or 6 days to do whatever we wanted to do. So we were like, we're not going to sleep, we're not going to react emotionally. Whoever needs to go and cry, you know, that's the other room. And we were all literally huddling up in my house, in my apartment in Karachi. The cast of the film, you know, the ADs, everybody, and the cast, some of the members were not on Twitter. And they created their accounts there and then on the day that the film was banned, only for this very reason. So it was like a war zone in a certain way. And I think we were kind of getting a kick out of the fact that, oh, it's trending now. Oh, the Prime Minister's taken notice. Oh, this is happening, that is happening. And to be able to actually get the film unbanned within 5 days was something that I think now, retrospectively speaking, I take a lot of pride in, because it was the first film, and I hope the next film doesn't have to face this to begin with, but at least has a good precedent to look at. We premiered the film at Cannes, and I think she heard about it, and then she met one of our executive producers at a lunch, and he said to her, because she's from Pakistan, obviously, that, oh, by the way, I've produced a Pakistani film rather recently, and she's like, oh, which one? He's like, Joyland. And then she's like, oh, can I get a link? And she got the link, and she was super generous in terms of her response to the film, of course, and she got in touch with us. We got on a Zoom, and she was like, I want to help in whatever way I can. And literally 2 weeks later, her credit was on the film and her deal was signed. It was so easy and smooth.
Oh, wow.
And she's such a down-to-earth, lovely, gentle human being, and has really been like, a force for the film, the most beautiful force behind the film. I think just the ability to lose oneself into a story and disconnect from your life, and yet to be able to sort of have a profound connection with that story and find things about your life, even though what you're seeing on screen has nothing to do with you. That's something that, only movies have done to me personally. And I think it's true for a lot of people, that you can read, you can get therapy, you can get a lot of other things, but I think the way movie teaches you about humanity, and the way it fosters empathy and compassion for people that you would have no way of meeting in your life if not for a movie. Like, take for example, this, like, Joyland is now playing in New York, it's releasing in LA now. There is no way you were ever going to encounter a trans person or a housewife, or a timid, meek, lower middle class man from Lahore, sitting in LA, except if not for a movie.
Right.
And to be able to see how their life functions and yet how similar they are to you I think is kind of something that restores your belief in humanity and our collective human experience.